I don't know whether it was the begging or the 2-bite brownies that kicked in, because the weight of me broke the chair, and it slid across the floor, and I hung by the extension cord, and in some ways, thank God we were broke, because I had bought the extension cord at the dollar store. So that broke too. And there I lay, sort of like a puddle. Me? What happened to me? What do you think would happen? I mean, everything started out quite normal, I guess, or normal of what I'd known. I did everything they told me to do, everything my grandmother told me, everything my mother. I got pregnant on a second date, but I kept the baby. I even bought a house on the same road that my mother lived, called the Darling Side Road. It was quite beautiful. Everything was fine for a while. And then something started to happen to me. It was as if my children started to get older and they didn't need me as much. And I started to take to the couch. I would just lay there and eat 2-bite brownies watching Oprah. I did everything Oprah told me to do. I bought every self-help book, Marianne Williamson. I tried yoga and Pilates and lying, I never tried Pilates. It got worse. I started to take to my bed. I locked the door. I stopped answering the phone, even if it rang, hung up, and rang again. I would listen to music. I'd listen to Sarah McLachlan on repeat. In the arms of the angel. Moved to Jan Arden. Will you remember me? I blame my depression on Sarah McLachlan and Jan Arden. It got so bad that I turned the music off. My husband said, maybe we should go to the hospital, you know? I'd been medicated. I'd tried everything, like I said. I agreed, maybe we should go. And when we got to the hospital, we waited 7 hours before someone could see me. Finally, a nurse came in. She sat with me for a while and she said, we need to keep you here. We feel you're in danger and this is probably a good place for you to stay. The problem is we don't have any beds right now, so we're going to have to put you in a separate room. It's called the bubble room. And when they took me in the room, it was a padded room with just a mattress on the floor, and I begged them. I said, please, I'll be good. I'll do anything. Don't lock me in a room. So they let me go home. And something shifted on the way home. My brain. I went to a place I'd never gone before. I had visions of my father wanting to be with him. I went into a place of fear I had never felt. And by the time we got home, I was in complete psychosis. I ran into the house. I got all my medication. I took them all at once. I got a fold-up chair. I ran into the garage. I got an extension cord. I stood on the chair and I tied the extension cord around a pipe above my head and wrapped it around my neck. I don't know what was wrong with me. All I know is I was stuck. If there's one thing that I have learned in the past 16 years since this happened, is you can't take the past and bury it away. You can't throw it up in the attic. You can't get out old photo albums and put X's through faces. You have to change. You have to find a way out. You have to ask for help. And as I stood on that chair, begging to a God that I knew would punish me for what I was doing, He was already punishing me for wanting more. As I begged, my husband kicked in the door, and he begged too. And between the two of us, well, I don't know whether it was the begging or the 2-bite brownies that kicked in, because the weight of me broke the chair, and it slid across the floor, and I hung by the extension cord, and in some ways, thank God we were broke, because I had bought the extension cord at the dollar store. So that broke too. And there I lay, sort of like a puddle. My husband ran to the house to look after our children. He had done everything right. He called 911. But you see, when a husband calls 911 and reports his wife in danger of this sort, it's considered a domestic dispute. They didn't send an ambulance. They sent the cruisers. When the police got there, they had no idea that I'd been hanging by an extension cord, that the vertebrae in my neck were damaged. They had no idea that I had overdosed. They simply put me in the back of a cruiser. And as I backed out of the driveway, I could see my children in the window. And I know what people think. How could you do this to your children? How could anybody do this to their children? I wasn't doing anything to my children. I simply was more afraid to be alive than I was to stand on that chair. On the way to the hospital, the police officer could tell I was in danger. I started passing out, so she immediately drove me to the hospital, the Dunnville Hospital. So there wasn't a doctor on duty. They had to call one in. I remember the ambulance ride because they immediately called an ambulance to take me to Hamilton, to a bigger hospital. And I'm from Hamilton. I was born in Hamilton. And the Hamilton Tiger Cats were playing the Grey Cup that night. All the way to Hamilton, the game was on. The guys in the ambulance were listening to it. I played along with them every touchdown, and Hamilton won. I guess I did too that night. When I got to the hospital again, there were no beds. So they gave me a security guard instead. Kevin was fantastic. I would spend 4 days with Kevin. He taught me right away that, Shelley, if you want to go outside, all you have to do is smoke. They let you go out. I'm like, hook me up. Let's get some Belmonts and fire it outside. I wasn't even a smoker. So I started smoking. We'd sit outside. Kevin would circle the want ads in the paper, and I'd write dark poetry and smoke cigarettes. Finally, after 4 days, emergency, just sitting in the lobby basically, no food, they found me a bed. The bed was in lockup, the psych ward. There were probably about 12 beds. Everything was plastic. The bed sheets were plastic, the windows were plastic, the cutlery were plastic, the people were plastic. I never thought I would fit in. First day I was there, this man named Alan walked by me and he said, if you're going to take a shower, be careful. I'm like, where am I? 2 days later, I'm like, hey Alan, I'll trade you my meatloaf for your rice pudding. You begin to fit in. The girl that shared my room was 16 years old. She too had tried to hang herself. Her art was everywhere in the room. She wanted to be an artist. Her mom wanted her to be a doctor. I would have to spend 28 days here in lockup. When I was there was a weekend where you can gain privileges if you're behaved and you follow the rules. I did see a doctor, psychiatrist, every day for 4 minutes. But this one weekend, I was the only patient on the ward. And this wonderful nurse named Jim came up to me and he said, Shell, I know you're alone this weekend. Do you want me to like get you a movie or maybe some Chinese food, something that will make you feel good? I said, you know what, Jim? Could you get me the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? So Jim brought in the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I sat there, I remember, with my lukewarm cup of tea, because I'm not allowed to touch the tea kettle yet. And I'm just me and Jack Nicholson, you know, waiting for the native Indian to come and rip out the water fountain and throw it out the window so we can escape. And all of a sudden, in walks Nurse Ratched. And she says, "Hi, Shelley. How are you feeling? On a scale of suicidal, are you feeling 7, 3, 2? You doing okay?" Good. I know that Jim brought you in a lovely movie, great, nice guy. But we really feel it's inappropriate right now for your stay, so we're going to have to kind of take it away. How does that make you feel, suicidally? You okay? 3, 2, 4? Not bad, good, okay. All right. So I got the remote out, turned on the TV, and I watched an hour and a half of Life and Times of Jeffrey Dahmer. True story. I don't know how the 28 days went by so quickly. They did. I didn't have a lot of visitors. The people that did show up, sometimes I felt like they were just coming to see what a crazy woman looked like. Finally, I was able to leave. I sat there with my suitcase and my release papers, waiting for the doctor to sign them. The doctor came in. She was wonderful. She was about this big. That's a lie. She was about this big, but the story's better if she's littler. She and a doctor, training doctor, whatever you call him. And she said to me, "I'm going to sign the paper, Shelley, but before you go, I've been watching you, and your spirit is very creative. I see you with the other women putting makeup and doing their hair before their children come in. I think you have a really creative soul, and when you get out of here, I want you to go home and just get out the newspaper and look for something that calls to you. Maybe you'll find something." I was living in Dunnville at the time, so the newspaper was 4 pages long. I remember when I got home, I was pretty excited. It was the first time someone had given me advice that wasn't like, "Oh my God, Shelley, you need to try, mindfulness, like just a year and a half of mindfulness for like mindful. You live up here for 5 minutes." It was something easy, a simple task. And when I got the newspaper out, there on the back page was a little square that said, "Whose line is it anyways?" It was a show I loved and played with my kids. I was good at it. It was at the local library run by Dick Passmore, a boy I went to high school with. So I went. My husband drove me. I started to go every week, and then we put a little show on. About 20 people came, and I was a hit. I was really good. I was so good I thought, well, why can't I do what my hero Gilda Radner did and join Second City? I could hear my nanny's voice saying, "Toronto, you'll be murdered!" So I had my husband drive me to the GO station. From the GO station, I'd walk to Second City, then I'd walk back to the GO station. My husband would pick me up and take me back. I went to the GO station, went to Second City, walked back. I did this for a year and a half. I don't have my grade 12, but I have my Second City. It was great. We had a show, Second City. A lot of people came. The media came. It was a really great show. They named me Best New Discovery in Toronto. Things started to happen for me. Things really started to take off. I thought, well, I don't know if I thought or the narcissism kicked in, but why can't I do stand-up? So I went to an open mic and I stood on stage, and as soon as the light hit me, it was like a pap smear, Like a warmed-up pap smear. I don't know. I've got to think of another analogy for that. The point is, my life started to change. I realized that it was about connecting with people. It was about finding purpose and creativity. I mean, this story happened, like I said, 16 years ago. I still carry around the baggage. It's just I've kind of figured out what to do with it, you know? I learned little sayings like, fake it till you make it. Like I said, this story happened many years ago. I carry no grudges. I believe that my mother, my grandmother, my father, all of the people in my life really, did the very best they could with what they had. I just realized that instead of living with a mental illness, I was simply mentally ill-equipped. I needed the resources. I needed to talk about it. I needed to share my story openly, honestly. I'm a funny girl. I always will be. And it was difficult to sort of intertwine my story with humor, but somehow I seemed to find it. And I've been able to go on and do some really incredible things. I've spoken at youth prisons. I've spoken at York University to 200 teachers who have come to my loft where I perform my play. Tomorrow night I'm performing it to the largest art high school in all of Canada. I'm very, very pleased of what I've done with my life.